Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Shooting the with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. Today, I want to know what you think. Was the attempted attack on the church in Michigan, was that terrorism? Does it meet the definition of terrorism? Was it related to what's going on over in the Middle East right now? Was it just a crazy person doing something heinous? Was it someone having a mental break that, is not really responsible for their actions? Let me know what you think. I'll start us off by saying that I don't know that this had anything to do with the Middle East. The guy involved doesn't look like your typical Middle Eastern Muslim terrorist or anything. And I do believe he has a history of mental health issues, although I wonder where he got his guns if he actually does have a history of mental health issues. If some of the stuff is true in some of the stories that are coming out, well, then how was he able to buy a gun? I'd have to find out those things, where he got his weapons from. But as I was saying, I don't think it has anything to do with the Middle East, but I do think it is terrorism. It meets the definition of terrorism. Anytime someone goes out to make a name for themselves, to get famous or whatever, by causing mass loss, mass panic, anything like that, by attacking a specific group of people in a specific place, that is to instill terror in people. That's one of their goals, so that they can become famous. And instilling terror is one way to do that. So I do think it meets the criteria of terrorism. Now, is it tied to, like I said, the Middle East? No, I don't think so. But I also don't think this is just, some people try to portray it as a psychotic break. No, I don't think it's a psychotic break. A psychotic break is, you had enough, you lose it, you storm out, you start hurting people. Plan an attack against a specific target for a specific amount of time isn't a psychotic break. Now, that person might have mental issues, or they might just be a jerk. They might just be a horrible person. I'd have to know a lot more to make that decision. So I don't think it's just he had a psychotic break and then planned an attack on a building, specific place, specific time, etc. I think he just is either got a screw loose or he's just a total scumbag. But like I said, I do believe it meets the definition of terrorism, just the way it was done and the outcome they want to get from it. They want people to start feeling unsafe in public places, unsafe in churches, etc. So that, by definition, they're trying to force a political agenda. Maybe they just don't want people going to church, so they want them to feel unsafe there. Because when you're engaging in terrorism, you're trying to push an ideal or an ideology through fear. And I do believe this probably falls under that, just clinically speaking. But let's see what you all got to say. See if anybody wants to weigh in over here. Ramon D1776 says, "Hail Phil." Well, that doesn't really answer the question, but yes, hail Phil. Mr. Furley said, "No, targeting a church doesn't make it terrorism." No, targeting a church in its own self wouldn't make it terrorism. If you were just an angry person running and the first thing you ran into was a church and you shot, that's not necessarily terrorism. But when someone sits down and plans something, I usually think they choose their targets to make a point. And when you're trying to push an ideology through fear and violence, make your point, that leans into terrorism to me. Sean Bain says, "Not terrorism, did not go after the group." What do you mean didn't go after the group? He tried. He just wasn't successful because they had some armed. And I'm still fuzzy on whether they're actually security personnel or if they're just church employees that also agree to be armed to help protect the parishioners. Like I haven't heard they were from this security firm or they're a hired armed guard. From what I'm hearing, it's kind of vague. Was it actual armed security, or was it just employees of the church who are armed and provide security for the group? Like if you have 5 parishioners that say every Friday or every Saturday, Sunday, whatever day they meet, we'll come, we'll be armed, We'll walk the perimeter before the service, and one of us will always be out there during the service, taking turns to walk around. So, that's different than armed security. So I'd like to know more details. Edgar Cortez says, an attempted mass shooting, yes. An act of terrorism, no. The shooter had been having mental issues for months and was counseled by the pastor. He needed to see a mental health professional, in my opinion. If you're having mental health issues, you don't go to a pastor. They're not qualified. It's like the Republicans that want to replace school advisors and school counselors with religious personnel. They're not qualified, and in fact, they cause more harm than they solve usually. So, not a fan of that idea at all. And it's all part of that. Get the churches back to teaching people to be good servants again, instead of thinking for themselves. Yes, he should have seen a professional if he was having mental health issues. Gummy Wuzzle says, not terrorism. Somebody got mad isn't terrorism. Terrorism usually involves some level of organization and a defined enemy or issue. This guy's just cray. But see, I don't know if that's true or not. Did he have an agenda? Did he not have an agenda? Was he trying to put forth a message, or was he not putting forth a message? Why would he choose the church? Why did he choose the church? All kinds of questions I would love to have answered. But usually the bad thing is, in these situations, the person usually dies and you never get the answers to any of the questions. And in this case, the guy died mainly, I think, because he brought a gun to a car fight, as I said before. But I mean, the car just took him out of the fight, and then another armed parishioner finished him off, I do believe, if I'm reading things correctly. John M. Mandrick said, based on what I am seeing, he was a mentally challenged person, and they have no idea why he attacked the church, so no terrorism. I don't know either. That's what I say, but I wonder in these situations. I mean, I don't think this is religious terrorism, but it doesn't have to be religious terrorism to be terrorism. Iowa Joe, haven't followed the situation, doubt it's terrorism. Yeah, I mean, he could be so detached from reality that he's, thinks he's acting against an actual threat to himself. And that's it. He thinks he's wiping out a threat, he's the good guy, but I'd have to know more. But like I said, he did. The first hit come from a car, pretty weak terror. Well, I don't think that was first hit. I think he actually got engaged in gunfire with a couple, I think it was 3 armed people from the church. That's why I'm thinking it's more armed parishioners than it is, because who hires 3 armed security guards? But he exchanged fire with 3 other people. He had his rifle. He had an advantage with his rifle. If he was good at what he's doing, he probably would have won that gunfight. Especially if he knew how to keep distance, use cover, and actually make the most of his weapon. He probably would have won that gunfight. But that's the thing. They're never really good at it. But they exchanged fire. One of the guys from the church was shot in the leg. And then one of the parishioners ran over the guy, and then one of the other armed parishioners finished him off. Anybody else hear it different than that? Because that's how that I've seen it so far. Sean Bain says, topic may be too controversial for some. If people can't handle controversial topics, I don't like that. Too many people just want to be part of the crowd and mimic the voice of the crowd and not have their own opinions stand out. More people need to be able to start speaking for themselves, whether it's going to be popular or not. People worry too much about, I'm going to get shit on the internet if I say what I think. Well, then say what you think. That's what I do on my channel, which is one of the reasons it's dying. But I would never, ever be one of the ones that just mimics, the popular opinion. I don't ever want to be that. That's what every other gun channel is. They either mimic the popular opinion or they keep their mouth shut. A lot of them are hardcore lefties. Some of the gun guys I know that have gun channels. Before they started their channels, they were left-wing people. I mean, farther left than me. But their persona on the internet's totally different because they, like I said, mimic the popular opinion and say what they think people want to hear, or they just shut up. I'm not good at that. I wish I could do that. I'd be more successful if I could do that. I'd be more successful in everything. Because I've quit jobs before because I'm like, this is bullshit and I ain't in favor of it. I could have just kept my mouth shut. It cost me out on a lucrative job one time, or lucrative career path one time, because I didn't like the ethics of what was going on. John Heasley said, no, not terrorism. Well, it looks like I'm pretty much the only person that thinks there could be a terrorism link here. I agree with most of you that the things you're saying is true. If it's just the one guy just having a bad day or a mental break or whatever, well, that's not necessarily terrorism. If he targeted the church because he wants to make a point, he's got an agenda. This wasn't just about they're coming to eat my brain, or they're stealing my thoughts and sticking pickles in my butt, that kind of thing. If he actually thought, hey, I want to make this point, I want to make people afraid, then that's terrorism. But like I said, not really a whole lot of information on it right now. But that looks like that's it for us today. I want to thank everyone for coming. I appreciate it. I will see you all again tomorrow. How about you all out there in YouTube land first? What do you think? Was it terrorism? Was it not terrorism? Let me know in the comment section. And if you want to weigh in on one of these topics in person, come to our live chats. We do them every day at 6. We start off with the shooting the shit. Then we move on to our open chat right afterwards. So stick around. We aren't going anywhere. But like I said, thanks to everybody who participated. I will see you all again tomorrow, and hopefully a lot of you other people tomorrow also. Till then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again. I didn't read my super. Oh, I did. I missed his super. Everything not terrorism. Most are just nuts. Okay, now I'll see y'all tomorrow. Until then, remember to carry. And I messed it up. I'll see you all again tomorrow, I hope. Until then, remember to carry, always carry, and stay safe till I see you again. See what you did, Mike D? Hey everybody, Yankee here. Before we go, I just want to take a second to remind everyone that this channel is 100% viewer funded. We don't take a penny from advertisers, retailers. We don't take money from political organizations. There's no one telling me what I need to tell you. Everything that we do is done through the generosity of our viewers, either buying merchandise or becoming a patron or a Subscribe Star member. You're all the ones that support Pets and Vets and TYMP. And that's the reason I can stay true to myself and loyal only to the people who watch my channel. And I can spend my time talking about what I want to talk about, telling what I think needs to be said, and giving you my uncensored take on things I think you need to hear. So if you'd like to help keep things that way, please support the channel by becoming a patron, a Subscribe Star supporter, or just going over to my web store and buying some merch. The links are all in the upper corner of this video.